Good afternoon and welcome to Revit View Filters and Visibility Hierarchy. My name's Stan Henney. I'm the Business Development Manager here at the old Bailey Building and Loan. I'm in CAD1.
I get those two confused all the time.
Today we have, with us today we have Tony Crawford, BSME.
Good morning.
Our MEP specialist, and Revit Ninja, I think is your handle.
That works.
And we have Barbara Thompson, AIA, who is one of our esteemed Revit instructors.
Good
Now,
afternoon.
I have been told that this is really two subjects, which I know, but we're kind of covering them together because they do have some interlinking, and they are very valuable tools to use when you are creating the Revit models and so forth and so on. So we're looking forward to this. And let's see, do we have some housekeeping slides or anything like that?
We do have the standard, here's how to listen. So if you can't hear us yet.
Yeah, if you can't hear us, you don't know that you can't hear us. All you know is there's no sound. You see the little raise your hand button. If you could click that and let us know that you can hear us, that's always helpful.
Should look like a little palm.
And it looks like
There we go.
a certain someone can hear us clear from Austin, Texas, so if she can hear us, everybody else can, I'm sure. Thank you very much. And most of you have been on a webinar. You know that if you hit the little orange and white arrow, it'll move the console out of the way so you can see the whole screen. And probably the biggest thing here at CAD1 in our webinars is if you have a question, please type it into the question box, and we will try to get it answered as close to in context as we can and do everything we can to get it answered by the end of the webinar, if nothing else. So with that...
Notice he didn't say anything about correct answers.
That's right, just answers. That's the best you're going to hope for here. I'm going to let Barbara take over here because Barbara's going to start as soon as she's ready.
Okay, well I have a couple of polls here for everyone just to kind of get an idea of who's in the audience today. So let's get those started.
There we go. So the first question is, how long have you been using Revit? Just to give us an idea of who's in the audience. We'll take, we can tailor it a little bit depending on whether we've got mostly advanced users, mostly beginning users, or somewhere in the middle. And it looks like so far,
even.
Yeah, it's pretty even. So we'll, I don't know, Barb, do you want to close that down in like 5, 4? We'll give you just a couple seconds to click on something. 3, 2, 1. So yeah, we can close that one down. So we'll show the results. Yeah, this is it's like 12 clicks just to switch over and show you. So it looks like a pretty broad. Half the people are in the middle. 47% have used it 1 to 4 years, but a fair number of less than a year users and a fair number of advanced. I'm going to say advanced 5 years or more users. We have a couple more questions, I think, just to give us an idea of where we're at, who the users are. So the next question is, waiting for the computer.
And while we're setting that up, we got a nice thank you from one of our listeners for doing these webinars, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much for thanking us. These guys put in actually a fair amount of work into these webinars, and they're not always the easiest things to do with everything else to do in life. So appreciate the thoughtfulness there, Clint. And next question. What is your primary discipline? Architecture, MEP, structural, contractor, or other, say facilities management or
building owner, everything else.
Whatever it might be.
And architecture's getting in the lead.
Oh yeah, architecture's in the lead.
We're in the lead, we're in the lead.
We could use it.
But there are some others.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
We'll close this one down in just a couple seconds. 3, 2. And just share the results. You should see what's in there. So it looks like I'd say half the audience is architecture, a fair third MEP, structural following closely, and other is 6%. So I'm curious, whoever's in the other, if you want to put that in, you can type that in the question field. If you're
just curious, what you're doing. What are you doing with Revit?
Low voltage, or BIM management, or facilities management, I think we have one more poll. So the third
And one more. So we're going to start off the day with view filters. So just a question here to find out how many people are using view filters.
So have you used these before, or maybe more than once? Or maybe, I don't know how to describe it. Do you regularly use view filters?
Okay.
Well, quite a few yeses. Oh, it's changing. The no's are catching up. Nope, no, now the yeses are definitely pulling ahead.
It's fun to see these polls on the screen here. It looks like a horse race game or something.
Yeah, especially there was 2 answers, yes and no on this one.
Okay.
So you could see them moving independently.
Yes. So, okay, we'll close
Facilities
that down.
management. Okay, great.
In 3,
Thanks, Gloria.
2, and closed. So there we
There
have
you go.
So kind of about
Whatever that
about
is.
60%,
61.
40% almost there.
Okay. Great. I'm going to minimize this thing.
All right, so
All right, so we're ready to roll with.
and let me set this over just a shade closer to you there, Barbara, just in case.
Okay, so today we're talking about, as Stan mentioned, the 2 topics we've got here, view filters, and then also the visibility hierarchy, and sort of what trumps what as you're working in Revit and working with different visibility settings. So I'm going to start off with the view filters.
Oh, hang on. I think we need to, sorry, I just jumped
Am
back
I
in.
not going live here?
Yeah, we need to finish out the poll.
Sorry. See, I'm going to do this whole poll thing. How do I do that? Close, hide.
And it always helps when the interface changes.
There we go.
Ah, okay.
Last week it was here, and now the buttons moved. And
Now, so am I on?
You're on.
So I'm the
You check
leader.
Tony or I's
Can I
screen right
close
now,
this?
and you can see us.
Okay.
there we go.
There, now we got it. Okay. Here we go. View filters. So what are view filters and what are they used for? Just some ideas on what you use them for. If you've got other ideas, I'd love to hear about what you use your view filters for, because it seems like we've got people with a lot of experience with them. So first of all, what are they? Filters are used so in visibility, you can do a lot of things with the visibility and graphics in your Revit projects based on the elements and the element parameters that exist in there. So you can use these view filters specifically because in each view you could set the display options for an element differently in every view. So that's what we're looking at, the way to set those up. So how do we get to view filters? There are a few different ways to find these. Filters tab on your graphics, the view tab, and then the graphics panel there. Got a little button for the filters. And then also in the manage tab. So next to your phasing manager, then you have the selection manager for actually setting up the filters. Now, if you've been, most of you, well, I should say a good percentage of you are using filters, so you've learned how to set those up. Oops.
I didn't even know that was there on the manage tab. I hadn't seen that one before. I usually go about it through, you get in the habit and always use the same place. So now I learned something today.
So this is probably where you use it through, is where in the visibility graphics dialog box down there toward the bottom, you've got document filters, and choosing this button also gets you into the dialog box to create your filters. Go to edit new, and then we come up with the filters. So these are some of the filters that I've created, different situations where I might use a view filter. These are pretty commonly used to show like fire ratings. So maybe if I want to show which doors are 1 hour rated, which walls might be a 1 hour, 2 hour, and then, or if you just want to group them all together and do the fire rated option here, then it can show those in a duplicate view maybe for your fire rated walls and doors. So all of your elements that are fire rated. Other possibilities, if I want to, in a certain view, look at the furnishings, or maybe I want to just take those out all as one group. Now, the nice thing about filters is that you can use multiple object types within a filter. Whereas if you go through your visibility graphics, you have to set all of those individually. So if I wanted to turn off the furnishings, the furniture systems, and the plants, and everything else, I'd have to check all of those boxes. So those can be grouped together in one filter, and then by applying the filter to that view, then you can take all of those out of the visibility of in that particular view.
Barbara, real quick, Julio, the slides won't be available after, but we do record these, and this session will be posted to our YouTube page probably within the next week or so. So you will have access to everything, and you don't have to frantically take notes.
So that's a good question, though, because you can maybe take highlighted notes, just the key, maybe the big points. Because just full disclosure, every once in a while the recordings crashes. I don't think we've had anything recently. Now that I've opened my mouth, I just jinxed it, didn't I?
Right.
Okay, I'll stop talking.
Shut up, Tony.
No kidding. Oh. Well, hopefully that'll be available. I don't know how long that usually takes.
A week or two.
A couple hours? No. Oh, a week or two?
When Denny gets to it.
With Denny, okay. We'll have to push it off on Denny and say, oh, whenever she gets to it. Okay, one other example that I have in here is how you might use for space planning. You could use filters to show different situations, maybe by department, if you want to group rooms together, and use any of the properties that you can associate with a room. So the common thing with all of the filters is that you need to find one common parameter for those elements in order to filter them by. So whether or not it's their fire rating, or maybe it's whether their name contains the word structure, or if it's a first floor element, then that common thing that you find, the parameter, is what you include in the filter. So let's look at the filters dialog box where we're setting this up. So you can see in here that under fire rated, I've got a filter name. So these are all the filters that I've created. Now another nice thing about filters is that you can actually transfer these to other projects too. So once you've come up with the system that you like for changing your visibility, you could save it into a view template first. You could save it into your project templates, or you can even transfer it, use your transfer project standards to get it into other projects. So even though it may seem like you have a lot of setup initially, then you don't have to do it again. All you have to do is make some revisions, and then they're easy to transfer to other projects.
I think that's a good idea to have it in the project template, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing that I like about Revit, because I can have a lot of things in my project template. Then when I start a new project, this is done, this is done, this is ready. I need to click a couple buttons, but it's ready to go. But I think that a lot of times with new users, when a company starts with Revit, it's coming from the MEP side especially, it takes longer to do it in Revit because they haven't done that setup yet.
Right.
They're still, well, this is how we did in AutoCAD. We just turned it on and it went. Well, it's because 5 years ago and 7 years ago and 10 years ago, people were setting up your AutoCAD template. Now it's ready to go. But you haven't put that same time into your Revit template. In fact, it might even take more time to set it up, to put like these filters, to set up these filters, to put them in your project template and stuff. So yeah. I think that's a good idea.
And to set up, the view templates for different types of views, and then, like you said, save it in your project templates. Then everyone can use the same thing. Everybody's using that same file or whatever from your server or whatever, and transferring those to keep your office standards
consistency
in place. Good. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so this filter, this fire rated, so all I did here was grab some, and I'll show you these examples in Revit here when I get through these slides, but these are just the ones that have a fire rating in their type properties. Now you may have to create a parameter that they have in common. Sometimes you can't just look at their type properties and find one that will work for all of the elements that you want to use, and then you'll end up with not any choices up here for the filter by. So you may have to create those parameters and then be able to use those as a filter. Here's an example of the furnishings and accessories that I set up. So this one includes, this is what I was saying with the different object types. So in here, I could come in and I can select the categories, actually, and I can use furniture. I could turn on furniture systems. Also, this one includes generic models because I have a few plants in this project that didn't come up with any of the furnishings or other things. And then lighting fixtures. those could all be included in one filter. Makes it easy to change that display when you change to a different view. Maybe you're doing an interior perspective or something and would like to show these items. Now in this case I did create a different parameter called, and I added it, I didn't create type comments, but I put the filter item in the type comments so that it just says by owner. So now I'm going to select everything that's by owner in this project, whether it's furnishings or any other objects that are in your project. So this is a look at the visibility graphics override. So what can you do with these filters once you have them set in your visibility graphics? Then go to the filters tab. You can control these either by changing the visibility, turning them off completely, or by just changing their actual visual properties. This one I could set a pattern. This would be for the room schedule. If I wanted to note that the instruction rooms had a different pattern in them for, maybe materials, finished materials, things like that. Or the fire rated. And then in the example that I'll show you here in a little bit, we'll set the line types differently, the patterns, so that they really pop out on those views that you want to show those in. So my little icon here means I need to Revit.
Oh, I saw that there. Like,
what is that? I tried the hyperlink, but then it just tries to do crazy stuff. So let's see. Can I close this?
Yeah. Yeah, I should maybe I should do that to my slides, just as a reminder to myself. That.
All right, where's Revit? Did I close it?
There it is.
There it is. Okay.
It's got to be there somewhere.
Yeah, you gotta hope. I'm going to go just to the floor 2 here and see. And then in the visibility graphics, then I'll open that up and just look at the filters that are set in this one. Now initially I don't have anything in this view. So I'm going to just add a filter to this view. I'll choose something. I'll do the furnishings. I don't think any of those are on. We'll see what happens here. I'll add that one first of all. Make them visible. That actually might have been a different project. So let's do that one. And then I have a fire rated. I'll just add all of these.
Yeah, when in doubt.
Yeah, when in doubt, turn everything on. Okay. And then another thought that I've had was that separating your working views. So maybe you have views that you work on and you've got extra annotation in those, you've got section lines. All of those things could be placed in the working view and then filtered out when you put them on your sheets so that you don't have to go back and delete all of those working sections, and it will show in your sheet the way that it's going to print. Now in your plot dialog box you can say don't include anything that's not on a sheet, but if you actually want to see it that way before you get to that point, then you can filter those out. All right, so those are all visible. Now I'm going to just take the fire rated and see. You would just change these, change a color, and maybe the pattern, we'll just put a solid pattern in there. And then in the cut line, so this is a plan view, so I'm going to have to change the cut visibility. Maybe I'll put a line weight on those. Okay. Do I have any fire rated objects in here? So all I came up with was a door in this case. Now the door, so if I look at the properties for this door and go into edit type, this one has a 20-minute fire rating. So that's why the only thing in this particular drawing I came up with was that one. That's the only one that was there. So when you go in and change any of these, add them to, this one says in the name that it's a 1-hour fire rating, this wall, but in my type properties, it doesn't say anything about the fire rating. So then we had to put in 1 hour.
So that one hasn't quite been finished yet.
No, see that's,
now it is.
So there is a bit of setup in here, but it's worth it. Once you get all this set up, you don't have to keep doing it every time. Once your family, your wall types are built with those ratings in there, then in your next project or in your template, they're already available.
So Barbara, could I have one floor plan showing these fire rated walls as red, but maybe I don't want to print that one. Maybe that's just for my design. Have another one that goes on a sheet what doesn't show them as red. Can I do 2 different views like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's another thing that's great about the filters. You can use them in every view. It could have a different setting. And so I can show them as purple in my next view
Yeah.
on the second floor, or whatever else you like to show it as. I don't know, what color do you like, Tony?
Yeah.
And so you can make a duplicate view also and say, I made this duplicate of this floor, and I could rename it, fire. Fire.
Fire, fire. I won't scream it too loud though.
I could put the exclamation point on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is a quick look at the visibility graphics. Let me go back into the PowerPoint here and see what we got. All right, so the filters. Then, so as I was just saying, you can apply this to multiple views. You could transfer it to other projects. You can use these in any view type, so even 3D views. You can have different view filters and change the settings for that. Maybe you want the trees to be green in your 3D views instead. You can do all of those different things with that. Some other examples in your floor plans, maybe you want to show clearances for your ADA, in your restrooms. You want to show those areas around sinks and toilets and door swings. Or in the interior, so showing your furnishings, making those pop out on an interior furnishing plan. Headrooms and departments, I mentioned that earlier. Another thing that's used commonly with structural, if you want to make in your sections, make the structure pop out, you can make those in a bolder line, make them a different color so that those really stand out. So here's a fire rated example already all finished.
Cool.
And let me see, I think I had one more. Then we'll get into the
Alrighty.
hierarchy.
I'll get my slides ready.
Okay, I guess that was all that I had.
And while we're kind of switching over to Tony here, I want to remind you of a couple things. We will be up in force at AIA Colorado and also the Mountain Region AIA in Keystone this weekend. So stop by our booth and say hello and get some dandy CAD-1 swag.
Heck, I'd even show up for that.
Yeah, and on Thursday at 1 o'clock, we will have Revit Radio.
Oh, yes.
So that's always a good time. So look for that on our webinar page and sign up. And Tony, are you about ready to rock and roll? All right, so Tony's going to cover the visibility hierarchy elements. Tony?
Thank you, Stan. So in this session, I'm going to take a look at, there's a lot of settings. Maybe you've discovered some of them, or maybe you discovered it and didn't realize you discovered it. There's a lot of settings that can affect how your elements display or not display, or are they visible or not? How are they visible? View filters, like Barbara covered, is one of those. But where do view filters fall? Like if I turn off the visibility of an object, but it has it on in the filter, is it still visible? Or what if I have phasing? It's a demo element, it's an existing element that's going to be demoed next to one that's existing but not demoed. How do those show up differently? What if it's the same, essentially the same type of wall, but one's demo and one's not? Or basically, how do all of these things relate to each other? In fact, there, I'll pull up the list. Here's a list. I have 12 objects, 12 in the list, and a couple asterisks at the bottom that don't actually fit in that list, but yeah, they do affect your view. And in fact, there's even one late entry, which I'll get to at the end, one I came across as I was working through this morning. So I'm actually going to start at the bottom of this list. So this list, and I'll, now that I've started that sentence, I was going to say, if you wanted, I can email you this list since I started that sentence. If you let us know afterwards, I can send you this list if that helps. So the top of this, 1, 2, 3, those are very strong, I would say, and they're very specific. In fact, the first, line work tool, you can override one line at a time in Revit. So I'll pull up Revit in just a moment. Line by line, you can make it thicker, thinner, halftone, whatever, but that's line by line. You probably don't, I don't like to do it that way. In fact, to be honest, I've never used a line work tool because I think it's too tedious. That's not how I want things to appear. I want things to be consistent and efficient. Number 2, the override line work, override graphics in view. Number 2 and 4 are kind of the same tool, but depending on whether you're doing colors and line type or you're doing the halftone, they have different strengths. So the top of this list is very strong, but it's also very specific. The bottom of this list, 10, 11, 12 is probably the most global, but I would also say it's the weakest because anything above that in that list, 11, 10, 9, 8, are all stronger and will override the object styles. Object styles are good. I would start there. In fact, I'm going to start at the bottom of this list right now. The first few things in this list, I'm going to start with number 12, object styles. If you haven't already run into that in Revit, you definitely want to take a look at that. So I just pulled this up. I'm working on the same building that Barbara had. Technically, it's a different file, which I ran into some curious things as I was working through it. So let's see. I was just looking at the floor plan. In fact, I put a little note in here. Number 12, I have lighting fixtures are set to be line weight 2. So my light fixtures are kind of thin lines, and the walls are set to a line weight of 8. So maybe those are a little bit too thick. So let's take a look at that. In the Manage tab, Manage tab under Object Styles, you can also get through that through Visibility Graphics. In fact, if you're comfortable with Revit, you've certainly seen Visibility Graphics. This dialog box looks similar. Not the same, but it's similar. I've got Model Object across the top, but it's not exactly the same. I have the same categories. The biggest difference is if I change something here, my walls, I'm going to change this wall type. See, it's got a line width of 8. That's really pretty thick. If I change that line width to do something thin, I'm going to say 3. I forget what the default is. Or if I change the color from black to lime green, when I close this out, there my walls are thin lines now, and they're green. In fact, if I go to another floor plan, the walls are green. Go to another floor plan, and there's my building, and the walls are green. It affects the nice thing about the object styles is it affects every view. Change like if you always want your walls to be a thicker, thinner, whatever you want, start with object styles. So anything I set in object styles is going to happen on every view for the whole file, the whole project, unless it's overridden by pretty much anything else. Questions?
No questions right now.
Okay. Sounded like you might have a question.
Nope.
So moving on to number 11, starts to get a little more specific. In fact, everything after this, well, not everything, but the next couple ones, number 11, number 10, affect just the view that you're in because we go through visibility graphics. So let's see, visibility graphics overrides. Visibility graphic overrides. There's Revit. I'm going to go to the second one. I have another view set up. Same second floor. I just made duplicates so I have things set up in different views. So I'm again on the second floor. So I'm looking at number 11. And on this one, the visibility graphics within lighting fixtures, I have set the line weight to be 4. Lighting fixtures, there I've put in an override. This will override it for all the lighting fixtures in this view. Or any view, make a template or a copy of this one. But visibility graphics is view by view. So I have fixed that line weight. If you remember on the last view and every other view, light fixtures were a really thin line. In fact, they were too thin, so I've bumped them up here. So now you can see the difference. Visibility graphics. I'm looking at the projection surface and the cuts. So that is number 11. Visibility graphics, projection lines and cut lines. So it's like a wall, is it cutting through it, or a light fixture, is it looking down upon it? Which is a little bit different. Number 10, moving on to number 10, also under visibility graphics, we can override the host layers and the cut line styles. And to be honest, this is a tool that I hadn't really used because coming from the MEP side, I'm going to hit OK and come back into this. Let's see, number 10, host layers. I have a view set up for this. And I also have it applied, so you can see there's a difference. So as I was saying, coming from the MEP side, I don't think I've ever used this tool because it affects walls. And I really don't care that much about walls. But if you do care, well, I do. I care, you know, can I mount
walls if you can have MEP?
That's right. I care, can I mount my junction boxes in the walls? Are they stud or are they poured concrete? This override host layers, cut line styles is a little checkbox hidden in plain sight down at the bottom. If that's enabled, when that's checked, then I can get to this edit, so I'll check it. I can open up this edit box, and there's another small dialog box where you can set the colors for every layer of the wall, the structure, the finish, the thermal, the air layer. So right now you can see I've already put colors in here. So I'll just close this out, but that's to point out why this wall, it's already been set up, why these walls have multiple colors.
Pretty.
Or you could keep them all the same color and put in different line weights, or maybe some of them gray, kind of halftone, make other layers black, thicker, thinner. You don't have to use colors, but it looks Yeah, it makes things obvious. Let me flip over to, come on. So those are what the, that last one, the override host layers, the cut line styles can do for you. If that's a tool that you want, it is stronger than the object styles, and it's stronger than the general projection lines and cut lines. So this would be something a little more specific. We're getting more and more specific as we go through these. Beyond that, number 9, so I'll just go through these on the screen. If you have a renovation, an existing building, or adding new, removing, demo, phasing graphic overrides fall within this. So let's see, I'm going to go back to the last view. If you haven't used phasing yet, if you're coming from AutoCAD, there's not really a parallel in AutoCAD. You'd probably do it with layers. But in Revit, there's a special tool for phasing. And I don't think it's too hard. Once you get the hang of it, I think it works well. There might be a little tricky at first to get the hang of it. So this is number 9. I set some phasing on some lighting fixtures. And come on. You can see I've applied phasing to these 2 different light fixtures. The ones on the left side are existing fixtures that are going to remain. So they're halftone, they're gray. You can see, well, there's some, this room has not been messed with, so they're all black. But on the left, existing fixtures that remain are gray, and existing fixtures that are remaining, existing fixtures to be demoed, I made them a dark red and a dashed line. That's going to be on the Manage tab of the ribbon. You have a button for phasing where you can change that. Just for what it's worth, so a little bit of an aside. If you're doing a project with phasing, if you're doing existing building, demo is not a phase within Revit. Demo is an action within a phase. You shouldn't need to put any phases named demo. Even if you're doing demolition, it's not a phase, it's an action. While I'm in this dialog box, there's phase filters. Honestly, I would not change anything in there until you're comfortable with it, until you really know what's going on, because there's probably already sitting in there that works. The last one is where I can get to these graphic overrides, which is why I brought this up. This is where I can change my colors, my demo. Where's demo? It's hard to tell, but I've got a really dark red in there for the demo, just to make it a little bit different to stand out. My temporary, I think I got those set to a green, unless it's a little hard to see because the lines are small. For what it's worth, temporary in Revit is an object that's going to be built and demoed at the same time, same phase, same contract. So if you put up a temporary dust barrier, for example. So I'm going to close out of this. There's options in here for graphics overrides, and they're a little stronger than visibility graphics. They're a little stronger than the cut lines, but not as strong as, say, the view depth. Whoops. So any questions so far? We've gone through 12, 11, 10, and 9. We've looked at the phasing overrides. Let's say you have phasing and there's pipes going through the floor, or something right below the floor, or foundations or footings or structural beams below. And they're in the floor, so maybe you're using a beyond line style. I'll show you where that's at in a moment. That's actually stronger than the phasing. So that's one where if I was Autodesk, I would actually switch those 2. But it's hard-coded into Revit, and I can't switch those 2. So you'd have to find another way. And it's not on every project where you'd run into that by any means. So the view depth, number 8 now, working up the list. Number 8, I'm going to go to another view. So same floor plan, same second floor, but this one I've got set up to show a view depth. I've actually got some conduit going above this floor, and then it goes down below the floor. So how that shows up is it's the same connected, same unbroken piece of conduit, runs above the floor, it's solid, but where it goes below the floor, well, if I don't click on it, you can see that it's a dash line. On some of the templates, when you start a new project, out-of-the-box templates, this uses the beyond line. Well, it's going to use a beyond line style. Anything that's in the view depth that's outside of your primary view range uses the beyond line style. But I think a lot of the templates, if you look at the line styles, there's a beyond, and it's in little brackets. Beyond line style is solid. I think that should be hidden out of the box. And for the templates I've used, it usually has been hidden, but I think Barbara said on her templates, it's a solid line.
Yeah.
And I've definitely seen projects where it was still set to solid, which kind of confused some things because you couldn't tell the difference. When you went to, in your floor plan, when you went to the view range and set this beyond line, or set this view depth to have a value, the lines didn't change because you had to know that it's using the beyond line style. And if the beyond line style was not set to hidden or anything dashed, you couldn't tell any difference. So it might be a little tricky the first time you use it. So what I've done on this view, I've given it a view depth. I've used a negative number in here. Make sure you use a negative number, otherwise Revit yells at you and says that you can't do that. Well, you could use a positive number, but you'd have to change some other things. If you have a negative number, like this one is going 150 millimeters, it's looking through my floor. It's looking under my floor. It's looking past the level by 150 millimeters. I grabbed a metric file. I probably in retrospect should have not, but I was halfway through. And that shows me the conduit is running below the floor. Let's say if I change this to 15, I'll make it 10 because I don't remember how deep it's going. Any guesses on what's going to happen when I change this view depth to 10? What's going to happen to this conduit, this dashed line through here? I'm going to hit OK, and, well, that's curious. It went solid. That shouldn't have gone solid. It should have disappeared. What happens if I break this? Let's see if part of it disappears. Okay, I'm going to have to take a look at that later on. That's what I go from going off script. Minus 10, minus... Huh. Maybe the conduit's not exactly where I thought it was. If I set this to just 0, apply there, it rounds it down. Maybe I moved my conduit around too much when I was messing with this file. I'm going to hit undo a couple times. Then I'm not going to spend too much time on this if it doesn't fix it. I'm going to take this opportunity and show you something completely off script. If I select these, this is new in 2016. This might be my favorite feature in Revit. So I just did a dragging window. So one click and drag. There's this little button up here called box or selection box, BX if you're a keyboard nerd like me. Click on that and I instantly get a 3D view that shows me just those things that were selected. I don't have to do a section box. I don't have to cut things around. I don't have to orient to view. I'm going to change my discipline just so I can see what's inside there. And there's my conduit, was the point of this. But with a couple clicks, I now have a 3D view that shows me exactly where I was working. So this is great for coordination. I can see what's above the ceiling. I can see what's below the floor. I can show the floor if I wanted to with just a couple clicks. So sorry, I'm just geeking out for a second on this view. So there you can see the conduit. All right, so if I lower this, all right, bear with me one second because we're not over time yet. So I'm going to try, there we go. If I move this conduit down even farther, okay, let me give this a try. Close out of this view, back to here. There we go. Okay, I just had the conduit too close to the floor. So now that I've set my view range back to with 0, no view depth, it's not showing me anything under the floor.
Tony, that view range, little trick you pulled there, that was just a sneaky way to sneak in the idea that that's one of the most common problems we hear about on Revit radio and stuff.
Oh.
I can't see this. Well, usually because the view range is set
That's
too
a big one.
shallow or something like that. So you hadn't lost your conduit. You were just sneakily.
Yes. So I'll set this to minus 150 because I don't remember what number I should. I have no idea what number because I moved it randomly. I'll do 350 just to be safe. So I'm going down 350 millimeters. It's not even a full meter. So when I do, now I'm seeing lights below.
You're going to be able to see into the next county with that.
Yeah. Whatever. I'm not going to go too deep into this one before I screw up this file anymore. I've screwed this file up pretty good so far. Trying to fix it this morning, clean it up for the webinar. So if there's something in your view range, if there's something that's beyond this primary range, which is determined by the top and the bottom, especially for MEP. For architects, you probably need to worry about the cut plane a lot more than I do.
Right.
For MEP, categorized objects in Revit, if it's pretty much anywhere in the primary range, top to bottom, it should show up. Whereas you guys need to worry about it being at or below the cut plane. With ours, the cut plane affects fewer things. So if you're using a view depth, if you're using that, be sure to set a negative number. Anything in that view depth should now show up using the beyond line style, which is set in the additional settings. It's set as one of your line styles. Alrighty, I've probably beat that horse to death. Any questions on that one before I move to the next one?
Nope, no questions yet.
Alrighty. So getting more and more specific and getting stronger. So this one is specific to MEP. There's actually two, well, 7 and 5 are both specific to MEP. They're two different buttons on the same tool. So looking at number 7, MEP system graphic overrides. This was something introduced Revit 2014, maybe. Don't quote me on that because I could be completely wrong. And I don't know if there's any parallel in architecture, and I have no idea on structure. So I'm going to take a look at, what was I going to look at? HVAC. So I'm going to look at duct. Oops, go back to families. Under families, there are some systems, and systems are unique to MEP. That's why I don't know. There we go, duct systems. I'm going to expand duct system, expand it to specific. I have supply, return, exhaust. So let me switch over to another, now I got a slide and I'll lose this. Another view.
So does this apply to everything that is an MEP system?
Yes, this is project-wide. And it's actually pretty useful. It's project-wide, which the only other setting that's project-wide in this whole list is the bottom one, the first one I started with, object styles. That applies to the whole project. This, I think, might be the only other one that's not specific to a view. So I'm back in a view that has some MEP, You can see I've got, well, that one's a little messed up. Like I said, I kind of messed up this file a little bit. There we go. There's some supply and return. There, this will be better. Why do I not see much? So anyway, things in blue are supply, things in that purple and magenta are return systems. If I just go into visibility graphics, they're all ducts. Come on, ductwork. They're either on or off, or if I override it here, I get one choice for color. I can't specify. Let's see if I expand that. Nope, it's just ducts. All of them or none of them. I can change the color of all of them or none of them. Older versions of Revit, you had to go to the filters, which Barbara already talked about. Those are really useful for MEP. They're useful for anybody. They're almost necessary for MEP, or at least they used to be. Now that there's these systems, the advantage of this is that I can do it for the whole project, for the whole file, and not do it view by view, which is what we would do before with filters. So I found this system.
Now, Barbara, just to stop you real quick, so that we're clear with the audience, obviously in MEP you can use the systems. In architecture, or probably by extension, structure to some degree, what would you do there in this case? Would be the whole project, or?
Well, if you were to be able to apply that, and I'm not sure about that, but you know, in structure you have systems, you have beam systems that you could apply that to.
It's true.
And that's the only thing I could think of right offhand of what might be comparable to what Tony's talking about as far as applying something to the entire project.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not aware of anything, but I don't do structure.
We have a wide-ranging audience, so I'm just trying to kind of keep it across boards here.
Yeah, so okay, I'll finish this up quick. I've edited the system. There's a graphics override. If I open that up, I set the color to be this yellow burnt umber. No, Stan, you're the artist. What would you call that? Raw sienna?
Yeah, I call that orange.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut because it's being recorded. So I had a joke there. But except they didn't change color. Any guesses why? Sorry, I should probably, that works better with a live audience when I ask people. So I'll guess. If I look at view filters, come on, visibility graphics. If I look at my view filters, oh, there is a view filter, supply, return, exhaust. That supply has been overridden, and I'm not going to spend too much time. I'll just set it to no override because Barbara's already covered this. Close out of this. Okay. And now all of my supply systems have turned orange because where's my thingy? View filters are stronger than this MEP system colors. So in this file I had both of them going on, and one of them will override, one of them is stronger than the other. And keep going, looking number 5 is again that MEP system override, but line weights and patterns are stronger than filters. The filters are stronger than the colors. So it gets kind of specific in here. And yeah, what was the word you used, Dan? Tricky?
Tricky.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go into those systems again, and now if I change, okay, so go back where I was. I'll turn on that filter again. I'll make this blue because that makes more sense. I don't even know what blue it was. We'll go with that one. So now the color is overriding that system graphics, but the system graphics, let's apply, if I change this, type properties, if I change the line type pattern, I'll pick something random, I hope that works, is stronger than the view filters. So it starts to get a little interconnected and interwoven. And there, yeah, I'm going to cover just about everything, but there might be more. I wouldn't be surprised if there's, in fact, I would certainly assume there's other settings that I haven't run across yet. In fact, there was one I ran across this morning that interweaves inside of some of these. All right, if you have any questions so far, let me go. No, I'm going to keep going down the list. All right. So we've looked at 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. And it looks like we're doing okay on time because when I look at the next ones, I recommend not using these on the first 4. Number 4, I have used override graphics in view by element. I've used that. I try not to. I'll show you what that is. So in a floor plan, you've probably already used this one. I'm going to go back to view on my end. This one will work. Let's see if I missed anything yet. No, I think I'm good. All right. Oh, here's one. My walls are a funny color. I've messed up this file so much. I hope this actually shows up. You can override item by item. So I selected that wall, right-click on that wall, override graphics in view. If you do it by category, great. We can still talk. You'll be my friend. If you do it by element, I might not, like your Facebook page. Because if I do it by element, I make just this one, cut lines, weight, make it something obnoxious, give it a different color. I've lost track of why that's even green because I messed up this file so much. So no, that one wall is at pink. None of the other walls are. So, well, why would you want one wall to be pink and this one's a really thick green because of the same thing? It's been overridden by element, brain freeze. There it is, override graphics in view by element. Why would you want one wall to be pink and one thicker lines? Well, there might be legitimate reasons. Maybe they're fire rated, like Barbara said, or maybe a structural wall. But instead of clicking on them one by one by one and having to do that, and oh wait, the design changed, that's not a secure wall anymore, it's moved, or that's not fire rated, that's a different wall now. Now I have to remember to manually go back, select that wall, and manually change it back to what it's supposed to be, element by element.
Right. Whereas if you used a filter, then you could apply it to the view and affect all of those walls instead of just that one. Yeah. And I always look at these, and Revit explains it as a more permanent solution than just using the hide in view at the bottom with the glasses down there. But I still look at the overriding in the view as more of a temporary setting. I mostly just use it to get something out of the way for a while, put it back in, or make it transparent, something to not stand out as much.
Yeah, so wow, I've messed this one up. I'm going to set it back to no override on the color, no override on the weight, or by category override rather. So it's reverting this override to another override, if that makes sense. Okay, so now I'm back to my green walls, and I've lost track of why they're green. And they're halftone, and yeah, there's so many things going on in this one. Or, for example, if you've noticed, oh, what floor did I put that on? Oh, I thought I put it on this view. Maybe I've already fixed it. But give me just 1 second. Oh, There we go. This is the view I was looking for. The walls are still green. But let's say, for example, oh, and see, there, did I not just fix that wall? I did, but it's view specific. So maybe the intern did it override by graphic category, and then somebody else duplicated that view, which is what happened here, except for the intern. Now I've got that in a handful of views. So now instead of fixing it once, I have to fix it like 4 different times. And I have to go in here and, oh, geez, I had to, yeah, it was only 10 seconds, but I shouldn't have to, I shouldn't have had to do that. And I had to do it over and over because it happened in multiple views because there's, yeah, just use filters. Try not to override graphics and element because then you end up with things like, should there be a light fixture in the middle of this room? All the other rooms have 3. Okay, well, there's not one in there. I'm going to do one of my second favorite is create similar. I'm going to put another light fixture in there. Well, now it's going to take me a second to put that light fixture in there. But it turned out there is a light fixture in there. It was hidden because somebody went in and turned off one light fixture. That's too much stuff. And I don't know why would they turn off one? Or like this door, there's a door missing. Why would they turn off one door? Maybe there's a reason. Maybe not, but now I'm going to assume that there's a missing light fixture. I'm going to add it. Now there's going to be 2 on top of each other, same place. Oh, cats and dogs living together, just everything gets confusing. So I've done override graphics by element, but I try not to. There are times for it. And speaking of time, okay, we're doing just about right because the last 3 I don't think I'd ever used before this webinar. So I'll go through them kind of quickly. Graphic display options. Silhouette edges. So yeah, that'll work. Do I have an exterior? Yeah, let's go to this one. And I'm going to ask Barbara, where's the silhouette edges at again?
So in your graphic display options in your properties palette.
There's a graphic display options. Like this is one that I don't think I've actually used. Bring it back on here and
bring you over to the architecture
there's
side, Tony.
Silhouette. So I'm going to make it a wide line and let's take a look at that. I also need to change. I haven't talked about discipline. Maybe I should discipline. Talk about that. Those are the asterisks on my list. So there's with some silhouette edges, and I don't know if one of the architects in the room wants to explain a little more specifically when you would use that. So that's what it looks like with it on. And if I turn it off, you can see the difference right now.
Well, you can use that to make the profile line of your drawing stand out. Revit assumes which lines those are that you want to make a bolder line in there, but any of you who drew by hand way back in the day, we would always put a really bold line around them, especially in an elevation, to make those really stand out. Because that's what you can do, that silhouette edge. So anything that would be, against the sky, the silhouette. Or if it had a break in the plane for the roof line, it can show those as a silhouette edge.
So right now you're seeing the 3D view without silhouette edges and enabling a really thick line looks like, come on, there it is. So it made some of the lines darker and bolder. So like Barbara was saying, I would say in a 3D view or an elevation, is that where you'd be most likely to use it?
Yeah, most likely, mostly in the elevation views, I would say.
And I'm not going to demonstrate this part. When I played around in a 3D view, with some MEP stuff, I didn't see any effect on any of my MEP elements. I think it was just architecture, and I'm assuming structure. So that's where silhouette edges is. It's actually very strong. It will override anything else that I've talked about so far, but only on certain elements, and only on, like you said, the edges, the silhouettes. And if you notice number 4, override graphics in view. Number 2, override graphics in view by element by element. Everything except the halftone falls in the list as number 4. But halftoning is stronger than silhouette edges. So that's where it gets a little tricky again. If I'm in Revit, I'll override graphics in view, and this is the wrong view to do it in, but I'll just show you where it's at to save a little time. Oops, come on. I'll override this wall because that one's a little bit different. Oh, come on. There we go. Select that wall, override graphics and view by element. Same dialog box I was in earlier, but this halftone setting falls higher on the list than everything else in this dialog box, just to keep you on your toes. Sure, I'll halftone that, hit OK. But it would be, oh, and then long story. Because it looks like I already did number 1 on that wall. I did item number 1, which is the line work tool. The line work tool lets you change the line width, line color, line style for one single line at a time. And I can actually think of a legitimate time to use that. It'd be pretty specific. So let's say you have an elevation of the outside of your building, and you want to show parts of the building, like maybe there's an L-shaped building and the garage is farther away from the front, and there's another part for it. You could make those farther walls a thinner line and the roof and the walls up closer a thicker line. That you could do with the line work tool, line by line, one by one.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never needed to do that, just to make it. But that would make it appear the farther they are from your view, from you as a viewer, makes it look thinner or thicker or whatever, have more of a halftone.
Right. And so, you could use those in building sections too if you wanted to either show the silhouette or even add that line work to show the outline or the profile of the sections.
Cool. So I think we're running close on time, so I'll try and wrap up. I do have a couple more things. If you remember, there is some asterisks at the bottom. The view discipline. Oh, I will show you that really quickly. And thin lines, because they don't really, neither of those fall into this list. They're both kind of beside this list. They override most or everything in here. So actually, let me go to, I don't know, I'm going to go to the first floor because I messed up the second floor, but pretty good. I'm going to make a brand new view. Let's see what happens because I've screwed these up pretty well. Brain freeze. See, when people are watching, I can't always, I can't find all the right buttons. Okay, so there we go. Everything's black. The walls are dark. The doors are funny shaped and dark. There we go. So everything's black, black lines. If I change in this view, and Barbara, I don't know if you ever changed the discipline in the, where's my discipline? There it is, of the view. On MEP, we use this all the time. As far as I know, architecture and structure, or sorry, architectural and coordination are identical. If there might be some, I think there's some mild subtle difference. Structural is completely, oh great, when I wanted to do an example, sometimes structural completely changes the view. Structural is different by itself. Watch what happens when I click apply. I just set it to an MEP discipline, and as far as I can tell, mechanical, electrical, plumbing disciplines, the effect on the view is exactly the same. And the effect is, when I hit apply, watch the walls, doors, windows are now halftone. And I've got some other stuff going on, but you can see the doors are halftone. Windows, walls, for the most part, are now halftone. Because that's the way on the MEP, on the consultants, that's the way I want it to appear. We're not building the walls, doors, windows, so those are a background, they're halftone, and our stuff shows up in black. And it doesn't matter whose file it's in. You could have plumbing in the architect's file linked into my plumbing file. Revit says, oh, that's a plumbing element. Even if it's an architectural file, it's a plumbing element. It makes it dark if the discipline is set to mechanical or electrical or plumbing. If it's set to architectural or coordination, then everything is full strength, nothing's half screened, everything's black. Questions on that? I'll pause for a second.
No questions.
Not quite the last one, but there's thin lines. Hopefully you've run into that. Hopefully you've tried that. This makes everything on the screen 1 pixel thick, even if my lines are set to be thicker and thinner. So that's what it normally looks like. This was how it'll print out with colors and all kinds of stuff. This is the actual line weight. This is how it'll print out. Even if you have thin lines active, it won't print out this way. I like to use this for working view, for when I'm working in it, but I know it's not going to print out even if I forget to turn it off. And this doesn't matter what view I'm in. Thin lines is always on. All these lines are thin. It's a system override, but it's one of the very few exceptions in Revit to what you see and what you get. What you see is what you get. The general rule in Revit, 99% of the time, how it appears on the screen is how it's going to appear on paper, with a couple exceptions. And I said I wasn't quite done. There is something I ran across today, and hopefully Stan's not going to slap me for adding one more thing in here. I call it 11.5. If you have a material in the family, and specifically in the walls, and this one's messed up, but you can see these walls. Oh, let me turn off thin lines. They have red inside. I haven't addressed why the hatching is red and why the hatching is blue. That's actually embedded within the family. And even if you use, let me go to the host layers just to completely confuse things. This one has the, come on, the multicolor, there it is, the override, graphics override by host layers, cut line style. And I'm emphasizing the lines because see, the lines are blues and oranges and purples. That doesn't affect the hatching. The hatching in this one case is determined by that wall family. It has a material, and that material is set to red. So that would fall between 11 and 12, kind of down in here. And it affects the pattern, but not the lines. And I'll skip you the whole story and my frustration this morning, because I thought it wasn't working, but I was looking at lines and patterns, and apparently I was confused. So.
Isn't it at the top, actually? It's stronger than...
Well, I think anything...
Or are you going in reverse here now, Tony? You got me all confused.
Tony, Tony and Barbara, you've got a question from Bruce. He asked, did I miss it? Can you change the pin weights related to a discipline?
Not with one click. Depends on what you mean by discipline. And if you mean the discipline in the view, the category name, the property called discipline that's in the view, no, it does not change pen widths, but it does change pen color. Well, it makes it halftone. It might be the same color, might be green versus stay green, but it'll halftone anything that's architecture, and it halftones anything that's structural. And to be even more detailed, it halftones and makes anything architecture or structure, makes it halftone and transparent, which you can't tell in this view, but if I was in a 3D view or camera view, if any of the disciplines are mechanical, electrical, plumbing, it turns the walls halftone and transparent. You can see through the walls and the floors and the roofs. It makes anything structural halftone and transparent. You can see through those.
So Bruce is asking, so halftone is the only choice, and I'll let you answer that, but then Barbara, can you think of any reasons where, because Bruce actually works for an architectural firm, can you think of any area where this discipline might come into play to change line weights or pin widths or anything like that?
As far as the discipline, this specific setting,
I think it's only halftones.
Yeah, that's hard-coded in the Revit. You can't change it. You don't have a choice. Even if you don't ever change it, you don't ever use it, just leave everything in architecture, it's hard-coded in the Revit. You can't get rid of the other 5 settings. They're just in there.
Right, or you could do, I mean, right below that it says show the hidden lines by discipline. But I think the only way to do that otherwise would be to do the filters, and then by the discipline you could apply a different line weight to those objects.
Yeah, oh, that's one thing I didn't put into my list, is show hidden lines by discipline is default, at least in my templates. Bruce, is this, I guess, what would you want to change by discipline? Would you want to show architecture is all black and then mechanical lighting or plumbing fixtures are halftone? I guess I'm not sure what the end goal is to change it by discipline. Hopefully I've answered the question, but if not, let me know. But we do need to keep moving. Let me flip back to the slides. Any last questions? I'm going to flip to, come on. Sorry, I'm looking at my screen. So, well, just kind of a summary. This has been a short topic, and I didn't go into every detail. This was not meant just as a reminder to myself as much as anyone else. This is not meant to be a training class. This is just kind of a quick view. This is what you can do, and as instructors, I know almost all of us fall into the habit of showing specifics, showing every button. But if you need more specifics, we can absolutely do custom classes. We can do one-on-one classes at your desk. We can come to your office. We can do classroom training, mobile training, implementation. We have online classes. We have online mentoring. We have Autodesk products, a lot of Autodesk products, and also some Bluebeam products. So cool. Thanks, Bruce, for the answer. Stan, is there anything that you'd like to add? Other ways that you can reach out? And
I think we're over time here, so I'm gonna cut us off and here's some upcoming events. Now, we have Revit Radio on Thursday. The Federal Innovation event was canceled this morning because not many people wanted to come to it. You didn't know that when you built the slide. We have a Revit Architecture Fundamentals class next week. And on the 29th, we have our annual Customer Day, which is titled Disrupt, Inspire, Elevate, and Design. It's a free event, but you can register. You do need to register on that so we can get a seat count for the food and beer and wine. Great event talking about the future of design. We have Aaron Ray Hoffer, Dr. Aaron Ray Hoffer from Autodesk talking about generative design, and we have other guest speakers. Monica Wittig talking about computational design, Bill Allen talking about data use and design, and Keith Warren talking about the smart city movement. It ought to be a great event, fun event, and a lot of bright people there to talk to. So go to CAD1 and register for that. And other than that, I'm going to let you go. So thanks very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
On behalf of everyone here, thanks to everyone out there. Goodbye now.